what insights you think we'll eventually be able to get, and where you see the big data space going. Like we know like predicting the stock market. People were on that 10 years ago and making these like rapid trades and stuff, and now recently, a couple of years ago, Obama announced a huge fund that the government's going to fund massive big data projects to make better government insights for diseases and health issues and stuff. But what sort of trends do you think that we're going to be able to get in big data over the next, say, 10 years?
I think in general, a culture of curiosity and of incorporating big data and analytics is going to be the differentiator between successful and non-successful companies, and I think that's happening already. The amount of market advantage you're able to achieve through properly analyzing and implementing learnings from data is going to very quickly make it difficult to compete with other companies that are doing it better. So I think that's something that we'll start to see very quickly, where data and action very quickly become the reason why there's a market leader in every industry. And so I think that's one thing that I think is very important, is that for any sector that you're working in, I believe it's paramount that if you want to be successful, you have to start incorporating this stuff now.
Yeah.
As far as where we can go, I mean, I'm a transhumanist by nature, so I think that this is really unlocking so much. I mean, I think it's our human evolution, it's our collective brain. We're able now to optimize for whatever we as a species decide is important to us, which I think is really cool and probably really nerdy and sci-fi.
What's important to us as a species to you?
I mean, I think we have a lot of big problems to figure out, right? We have a globe that seems to have a limited amount of resources for us. We have to figure out how to end hunger and war. And I think these are the places where we can start to train and analyze and make big, impactful differences in how we live. But which is actually way more exciting to me in general than helping people sell widgets. But that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. So.
Yeah, solving big problems is really key. Like resource allocation on a mass scale is such an issue, and it's just so hard for any one human to wrap their head around, like just the massive resource allocation of the planet. But big data is something, I think it's going to go there. It's going to help them solve some of these major issues.
Driverless auto, I think, is the place where we'll see it.
That's another one. Yeah, self-driving cars. How about you, Joel? What do you think? Where do you think big data can take us in the next 10 years?
I think, touching on the issue of no black boxes, because then you have this exposure as to what's working and what isn't, and then you can make business decisions, life decisions, global decisions based on things that have previously worked and not worked. So definitely the no black box era, that's quickly going to weed everyone out that's still kind of living in that black box era. And the other thing I think that I'm seeing a lot of is content. So I can speak for myself, and I can speak for a lot of the data that I see. People are really interested in content, whether it's kind of mindless, kind of celebrity gossip content, or whether it's a really important piece of news. People like looking at content, people engage with content, people share content. And what we've seen is based on the type of content people consume, their behavior in terms of how they're performing on the site or the app or the connected device kind of veers one way or the other. So people are more likely to consume, videos all the way through that are, reading articles about, Big Brother this, or people that are taking quizzes tend to do that. So it's kind of interesting, because then you can almost analyze what people like, and then you can take that to not only predict but also gear it towards what other kind of content you want to present them with. So there's sophisticated tools that retarget, like retargeting and things like that. But on a very, very basic level, I think that content was lost for a while, and now there's a huge push towards it. And I also really think that people are going off the web and they're going onto mobile devices, tablets, and then recently what I work with a lot right now, OTT devices, over the top stuff, which is Apple TVs and Fire TVs and Rokus and things like that, and we're now, in a very robust way, tracking user behavior there and trying to understand what people do, because a lot of people, that's kind of their means of consuming, entertainment. A lot of people are, pulling the plug on their cable providers, and stuff like that. Where Nielsen was kind of doing it in a black box way in the past and completely monopolizing that industry. They just got bought out by Adobe. But anyways, now it's going to be tough to do that because we can track what you're doing.
Yeah, that's such a good insight. Everything's being tracked today.
Yeah, I can tell you what's being consumed on Apple TV this morning. Yeah, so it's kind of scary but cool.
They say I love the analogy. You always overestimate the change that's going to happen in 1 year and underestimate the change that's going to happen in 10 years. If you look back a year ago, we had Apple Watches, they had Oculus Rifts, and there were self-driving cars, but 10 years ago we didn't even have iPhones. And I think that analogy applies really well to big data. Like 10 years ago, big data didn't even exist. So next year we're probably not going to be that much different, but 10 years from now I think it's going to be dramatically different. And so, what's your thoughts on where's this headed in 10 years?
Well, I see the next big wave is what we heard in the last session is from the IoT and for the Internet of Things, and everything will be on the web, and we can only imagine what kind of applications that's going to bring. So one scenario we've been throwing around in our advanced development lab is your trash can, it will know what you're throwing away. Okay, so it can and the refrigerator knows what's in there, right? So okay, he just threw this egg carton away, so we're out of eggs now. So your refrigerator can send a message to the store that, hey, we're out of eggs. And an Amazon drone will drop it at your front door.
Chicken.
So, or a chicken, maybe that's a better one for sustainability. So all we're left is the new definition of last mile. How do we get it into our refrigerator, right? So the whole interaction and the whole paradigm, how we're going to live and work, is going to change. Driving cars that drive by themselves, maybe nobody will have a need for a car anymore in their garage, because all you do is you pick up your Uber app, and the car shows up in 2 minutes at your front door and drives you automatically where you need to go. So we don't need to have a car per person. We'll need to have a car per 10, 20, 30 people, right? And so we're going to help the environment also that way. So I think there's a lot of possibilities and opportunities with this new Internet of Things, and I don't think we really know where it's going to take us in 10 years, but there's a lot of exciting chances that we can see happening.
Yeah, it's important to zoom out. And when you think about big data, it's not, data itself isn't interesting because we can't really look at data by itself and figure out what it is. We need the help of computers and AIs and trend analysis tools to tell us what is going to happen. But there's just, like you said, maybe cars are going away. Maybe our refrigerators, or maybe we don't have to go to the store anymore. And Postmates and Instacart brings us our items and predicts what we need before we even know it. So I think big data, like the internet or computers, is going to be one of the fundamental changes that we see to humans. But I think we're just at the start. We can barely even sense what's going to happen, and we're building the infrastructure right now. Like Teradata is building just the platform, like the telephone lines of big data, and it's crazy to think how it's going to go.